Hi everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program PvP Series 3. This is the first episode, so we're really looking forward to getting our teeth stuck in. I'm 4040 and with me is my guest.
Hello, the name's Simon Parsons and I'm Publicity Manager for the Super Happy Reliable Corporation.
He is going to be one of my co-competitors who's also looking to...
Competitors, such a dirty word. We're all friends now, remember?
Sure.
Friends.
Well, we've maybe forming an alliance because the Northern Coalition have been rather bad boys recently. The Northern Coalition, who are let's find us on the map somewhere first. Now we are. Where is? Where are we?
No, past it. Right. Nearly.
No, we're here.
There we go.
Right, we're here. We're on this landmass. This is kind of the landmass that we control. Over here, this is the Northern Coalition. This is where Nightshade Industries was down here somewhere. Northern Coalition was these large body of different governments and unifying states, and Tuxedo's Industries was on this bit here, I think. The Northern Coalition have invaded quite a lot of the planet because they're a bit unhappy about the space war, to be honest. I think they're a bit jealous, maybe.
Yeah.
If you've been keeping track of Series 2, they launched an interdiction fleet around Kerbin and declared Kerbin as a no-fly zone. And since then, there was a big battle for the Mun, and the end of Series 2 happened, with Cryox Industries winning. Hooray! But
Hooray! Yes,
hooray. But the Northern Coalition have left the Senate over the entire fight. They basically I reckon they want the resources of the solar system to themselves. They don't want to share with companies who are not under their thumb. So they've invaded and taken over the land that Tuxedo's Industries and Nightshade Industries were on, and have taken control of all of their unmanned satellites. So there's quite a lot of satellites all over the place, which were controlled by them, and now controlled by the Northern Coalition. So they're free-fire targets as far as I'm concerned. The Northern Coalition have attacked and destroyed my fleet around the Mun, and as far as I know, there have been no survivors. So pretty much every big ship there, Northern Coalition there, Northern Coalition, they're all unidentified ships. We're not sure what they are. They destroyed my vessels without any kind of preamble. It was a surprise attack. I also lost Leviathan around Mimus. I lost my entire fleet around the Mun. So yeah, attack without any warning, no declaration of war. They just kind of shot all of my ships down. I honestly don't know if there are any survivors or whether they have been captured and interrogated.
We think that this is neither super happy nor fun, so we've decided to give them a telling off.
Yes. So currently, as it stands right now, the Northern Coalition are winning because they've got military forces around Kerbin, the Mun, and Minmus, so effectively they control the gateway to the rest. Now that's quite a big threat. You might be able to get your fleet out if you time it right, but they're definitely in a position to be able to strike. Now I currently have control of Eve militarily, and I have got control currently of a lander that's on the Mun, who we've not been able to get to because of the forces around the Mun, so they're kind of being held at hostage a little bit. I don't know what the Northern Coalition are going to do to them. They're kind of undefended down there. It's not a military expedition to the surface of the Mun by any means. So, yeah, I've decided for the good of all and to open everything up, I've decided to send a strike mission to Minmus. Reason being is it's a gateway to the rest of the universe, and there appears to be only one enemy ship in orbit, in quite a low orbit in fact, and my satellites are still active. I've got 2, so we're going to take that ship out and then hopefully open Minmus up to the other corporations who choose to join me in the fight against the Northern Coalition, or allow the other corporations to then freely explore the rest of the universe. So yeah, that's my plan for today. Is we're going to kick the shit out of this, whatever this is. We don't know what it is. We don't know how big it is. We know there are a few of them around because we've seen them in orbit with that designation of LHK 3685 around other planets. So we're going to go find that out, and to be honest, I want to show them exactly who's boss.
Yes, it's time to show them the Super Happy Fun Corporation is indeed boss. Absolutely.
So
it's going to be a good idea, it's a good chance to find out what they actually look like.
Well, yeah, we want to find out what at least that designation of ship is, and what they're broadcasting as, and are they actually hostile? Because so far the Northern Coalition have been completely dark. They've not contacted anybody, they've not issued any declarations of war or demands or anything. They've just outright attacked us. But then again, as we're not nation states, I don't think we're covered by the Articles of War.
No, but we're nice people, so we're going to be polite. If we find Kerbals, we'll be nice to them. We'll give them snacks.
Yes, we want to rescue any of the Nightshade Industry Corporation Kerbans or any of the Tuxedos Industries Kerbans. We want to rescue them. I believe they have been sending out distress signals. So if you find any of them, you can rescue them. And in their distress signals, they'll say they'll fight for anybody who rescues them. So there's potential to make some friends, perhaps, and capture some technology that you might want to have a look at.
So, tell us, how many ships have you patched into this launch?
Well, this is a 2-ship launch, and it also sends up additional satellites as well. So we're going to conquer Mimus in the name of the corporations, I think. Obviously, I'll hold it with my military forces, but anybody is welcome to send any geological surveys, mining missions, non-military missions to Minmus. And if you do wish to send a military mission, then of course we'll have to enter discussions on how to add your key codes to the task force, so we can have a joint unified effort of defending Minmus against the Northern Coalition, who have stated that Kerbin, the Mun, and Minmus are theirs. And they will fight to defend them against any and all hostile forces, and they consider anything other than a satellite, and to be honest, I think satellites are a provocation to them as well. Anyway, so we've got an interceptor for basically to placehold. They're well armoured, they've got good fuel, they're okay to stay out for a decent amount of time, and they've got a nice varied set amount of weaponry, although they're not good at dealing with specifically hard targets. And then I've attached an assault ship, which is going to do the job today. This is going to destroy whatever's out there. It's got pretty much as much weaponry as you could shake a stick at. And if that can't do it, I'm going to bring this guy in as well. So let's head straight to our launch, and then we can have a little bit of chat about how this series is going to run, how the rules are going to work to all our viewers who are new to this. We're going to go through the rules, how it works, and yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Oh, it's going to be good. I'm new to this as well, remember?
Yes, you and your Super Happy Corporation of awesomeness. So, do you think you have any plans? Have you got your eyes on any particular planets or systems?
Well, I think what we need to do is we're going to take advantage. If you win today, we're going to take advantage of this victory to just push out beyond the system and see if we can find resources further out.
Oh, fantastic! Well, but we were acting as the Northern Coalition's police force before it all went wrong, and to be honest, we're a bit sorry that we're on the enemy's side when we didn't know that they were the enemy. Well,
yesterday's friend? No, we'll always be friends, won't we? We'll always be friends.
Sure, why not? Okay, let's just flick through my cameras.
You only have one Kerbal on that.
Also, my craft appears to be bouncing. That's strange.
Yeah. Because it's made out of flubber. Yay.
Okay, we'll bring you guys back in a few seconds. I'm just going to add another Kerbal and set the mech jeb up. So, see you in a second, guys. Okay, everybody, we've got our additional little Kerbins down here. Now we've got 2. Thank you for pointing that out. So we're going to engage our autopilot, which we should start throttling up. And one of 2 things are going to happen. It's either going to go straight up or it's going to fall over. Depending on how good our staging is, because it does screw up when you add additional vehicles. Okay, so launching.
Ladies and gentlemen, place your bets now.
Launching in 3, 2, 1. It's alive! Oh, it's going, and it looks like the engines on the craft on the middle are on fire, which is what we wanted. Wow, look at that majestic sight, thundering into the sky towards the sun. The way that the lag's working, we're probably watching this. Yeah, it thinks only 6 seconds have gone past. There we go, let's bring it back on board.
We'll be staging fairly soon and things will get faster.
Yep. So, while we're here, let's see if we can find a cool camera angle. The onboard cameras. Alright, so while we're here, we're going to have a chat about how this series is going to run, and for those who are new to my series, we will basically go over the rules and yeah, limited terminal velocity is good. So, rule number 1 is all your vessels have to be labelled with your initials, so SHARC for yourself, and then a dash and a P to say it's either private, or a dash and a C to say it's common use. Now, common use are ships that anybody could fly if they chose to, and dock with, and take fuel from, and generally use. And private ships are ships that cannot be docked with, and you're not allowed to fly on. And unless you're within 30k of it, you're not allowed to even look at it.
Okay, if it's a commonly owned ship, and it's a satellite, does that count as having communications around that planet? So if you have a commonly owned satellite, can I use it to control my vessels?
I don't see why not, if I specifically said that you could use it.
Okay, excellent.
I don't believe that my satellites are common use at the moment, though.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
Yes. You're not allowed to have a look at other players' ships in a VAB if it has a -P in the name, so no sneak peeking. You need to be within 30k of any vessel before you can switch to it. This represents onboard cameras. We have got the onboard cameras mod, which we can have a look at, which we've got on this, as you saw from our camera angle from takeoff and the different cameras I flicked through. But realistically speaking, if you're out of 30k, your sensors haven't got a good enough resolution to look at the ship. Scrolling down, most weaponry is to be homemade. There are a few minor exceptions which will be taken on an individual case, mostly to do with the atmospheric weapons like bombs and stuff can't really be used in space, because they're not designed to be used like that.
I think it's totally unfair. You're just overreacting because I blew up half of the...
So we're just about to lose our next stage, so... Now this next stage should drop away. There we go. So we've got an onboard camera now, currently looking from the stage that's dropping away from the ship. How cool is that?
Oh, it's marvellous, isn't it? That camera mod is absolutely fantastic.
It's still a bit loud though. Blotting out the sun, that's all I like. There we go, and we'll just see that ring just dropping down there. There you are, let's bring it back in. Okay, I hope the next one is going to work at some point. So you must have... Now, we're talking about satellites just, and that's the next major point is you've got to have an observation stroke command and control stroke satellite in orbit around a body, which includes planets or moons, to be able to send up other vessels, like combat vessels. A capital ship, though, counts as being big enough to have its own onboard command and control as long as it's got a decent amount of, sensors and radar dishes on it. So if your satellites get knocked out, you can't do anything with that planet until you seed satellites back around the planet, and then you can send your ships up, because you can't send combat ships up without any form of triangulation. It just doesn't work.
Okay. What constitutes a capital vessel?
A capital vessel, that's a really good question actually. A capital vessel is a large class vessel, usually armor plated, but that's not obligatory. It has multiple crew pods and multiple crew. and is big enough to, like I said, have its own communications array, power generation array. But yeah, generally it's just multiple crew pods and large class weaponry, pretty well armoured, and communications. They're pretty much classifications. If you make something that's tiny, that has the 2 tiniest crew pods, you might get a raised eyebrow going, no.
Fair enough.
Now, the way that turns work is the next point, is that you can launch either one flight, which is what I'm doing now, from Kerbin, or you can pilot 2 vessels, 2 separate vessels, and have 2 attack runs on vessels that are already in orbit around a planet.
Okay, so the question here is, no, I know nobody has done this in this game so far. Now, if you've launched a ship that's got 50 different ships attached to it, can you fly all of those 50 in a count? Yeah, you launch it into orbit and take one of those off and fly it away, take another one off and fly it away, take a third one off and fly it away.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's how Leviathan works.
Excellent.
Because Leviathan is a ship in its own right, so it can do its own attack run, but it has 4 drones on, which can each individually do their own attack runs as well. If you've put enough effort into building something that can do that, props to you, you get the reward.
Excellent.
Yeah. Now, quite a few people have asked in the comments, actually, how does this multiplayer thing kind of work? Because, yes, there is a multiplayer mod. In fact, there's a new multiplayer mod for KSP, but it's about as unstable as a jelly in the middle of an earthquake. So, how we do the multiplayer is we play it in single player, which is what I'm currently doing, and then when we finish playing it, we compress the zip file, and then just pass the file either in an email or via Skype or something to the next player in turn. And then they have a set amount of time, 1 to 2 weeks to play, and then they have to pass the file on, whether they've used it or not, to the next person. And it should just keep rinse and repeat and just keep passing the file around. We try and keep the copies of the files that we've just had, just in case there is a mix-up, though. So, kind of have father-son copies.
It's also a good idea because, let's face it, Kerbal Space Program has never crashed and taken out a save file for me. I don't know about you. Never.
I've had a few glitches where I've had to rescue stuff. I must say. So the next rule is you may declare a ceasefire at the beginning of your turn. You must say how long it will last, and it can last up to a maximum of 2 rounds. And a round is literally us passing the file rounds to everybody. That's 1 round. So you can declare that up to 2 rounds. Now, you can have it for 1 round, if you want to, have it less. You may perhaps want to have a ceasefire right now because you have to seed satellites first, and you're not in a position to defend yourself as you have no combat ship. So, food for thought for yourself. You might want to have a think about it before your turn.
Makes sense, makes sense.
Now, the mods we use are set, so for those who are interested, and the links will be below, we've got KW Rocketry and B9 Aerospace for basically lots of cool extra spare parts. We've got version 2 of MechJet, but version 1 will do just as well if you can't find it or you prefer version 1. We've got Kerbal Engineer for those who like maths. We've got the Enhanced Navball, which is currently active, but as we're not doing anything other than going straight up, you can't really see any difference. But you can see the extra ball that's up the top here. That's the command menu for that. We've got a Kerbal Alarm Clock, which is this one right here. So if we've got multiple launches up and you're looking for multiple windows, that's that. We've got the Hull Cam mod, which we've just been demonstrating, and we have the docking port alignment indicator, which will pop up here if we set a target, which is really useful for doing manual alignments.
Great. Okay, and what version of KSP are we using? Ooh, gravity turn. At last, I'm starting to wonder.
Well, we've just got out the thickest part of the atmosphere, turning at 20. I know it's a bit high, but she's a long beast, and generally the bigger and clumsier the craft, the higher up you want to turn because of the way that the wind plays around with stuff.
Well, I think that was very rude of you. Shh, don't listen. He doesn't mean it really. So, Kerbal Space Program version, which one are we using?
We are on 23.5. I mean, we could be using 24, but at this time, the mods that we're planning on using most of them haven't been re-released for 0.24. So we're going to stick with 23.5 for the entire course of the series, unless there is a big update and all the mods are updated and stuff.
Great, okay.
So yeah, we're going to be stuck with this. It's quite nice to be playing with a more optimised version as opposed to Series 2. So we've just lost our tanks there, so we're going to flick to a nice view, and yes, it worked.
Look out below!
That's alright, they should burn up in the atmosphere. They should also hit each other.
Yep, there they go.
Yeah! Got to love damn explosions.
More explosions and you haven't even left the atmosphere yet.
There's quite a lot going on. I'm hoping I haven't launched something from my ship ahead of me. That's always funny if I accidentally have something from this ship and it just fires and destroys that one. And you're like, we need a relaunch on that one.
Whoops.
Right, so the next rule is you're not allowed to dock or take fuel from an enemy or a neutral ship without express permission of that ship, and that permission will only cover that one time. So if you say, oh, I had permission before, you don't have permission now though. If you don't have permission, you can't use it. Simple as. Now, docking doesn't necessarily mean that you can't clamp onto an enemy ship though. There is such a thing as the clampatron, which you used to guide rocks and stuff. It might be useful to clamp a satellite onto another ship, for example, just to keep a track of it.
Sounds like fun. Here's a thought. What if we've destroyed the controls of a ship?
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically just floating debris. Can we dock with it then and steal its fuel?
Well, I believe national maritime law, which does cover space, states that if there are no crew left and it is, to quote, salvage, in other words, there's nothing controlling it at all, there's nothing, you can't do anything with it, then you are free to go up to it with a clampatron, latch onto it, and then start taking fuel from it or try and take over it.
Dar yes, be hearties, because it be salvage then. It be bounty of the high seas, it does.
To be honest, if you've got weaponry that can decapitate a ship, then you're on.
Right.
I mean, a lot of my ships do have multiple command modules though.
Well, that's alright, because I've got an army of Kerbal, each armed with a tin opener.
You're just gonna start peeling off the command modules. It's like, no, we don't need that.
He's worked out my plan.
Now, the next rule is you're not allowed to ram, and we'll go over that in a second, or use the clamp aggressively. So if the enemy ship is active and you're trying to go up and clamp onto it, it's reasonable to assume that they will just turn their ship around and shoot you.
Mm-hmm.
So clamping's out, unless obviously it's lost all of its command modules, they can't do anything and it's just wreckage, in which case you're free to do what you want with it, so take fuel or try and take control of it. The ramming part, you're not really allowed to ram. Now, I know Nightshade Industries, as a last resort in our last fleet fight, did choose to ram, but I believe that was a bit of a special case. I mean, Nightshade Industries were a bit desperate at that point. Now, you can have guided missiles though, as long as there's no Kerbal on it, and it's obviously a weapon, you can ram that into an enemy ship because it's just a guided weapon. That's perfectly fine.
Okay, makes sense.
But I was asked to clarify that for the last series, so I thought I might as well clarify that now.
Yeah, I was just about to ask exactly that question, to be honest with you.
Yep. And beyond that, we've got our little point scoring system, which is basically going to decide how the game goes on, how people are, whether we can decide whether somebody's winning or not. Now, the way that the points work is you've got different levels of control around an orbital body. So, level 1 control, so it gets you 1 point, is if you have a uncontested, so there's no other enemy of this type around the planet. If you have uncontested, a unmanned probe or satellite, that's the lowest form of control of a planet or body. So if you've got one around it, nobody else has got it, you count as having that planet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, level 1.5, so it's 1.5 points, and that supersedes the level 1 because it's worth more points, is a manned space station, non-military. So it's got no weapons on it, and it can't be used in a military capacity other than to refuel, maybe as a refueling station.
Okay.
So that would get you 1.5 points versus their 1 point. You would be winning. You would have control of that planet.
Okay.
Obviously, if they also have a manned space station, though, it would then be contested, and nobody would get any points. Level 2 is military orbital vessel, so you get 2 points for having a military vessel uncontested in space around a planet. Level 2.5, so 2.5 points, is a military capital vessel. So you get, and again, if it's uncontested, you get those points. If it is contested, even if it's contested by just 1, it counts it out. But to be honest, if you've got a fleet around a planet and they send up just 1 military vessel to contest it for 1 round, you're pretty much just going to turn around and swat them out of the airspace, or make them surrender.
I'm sure we can have a discussion about it.
Yes. Now, the next 2 levels, though, will actually allow you to will pretty much allow you to control the planet unless that other person has a fleet in orbit, and that's the level 3, so that's worth 3 points, which is if you have a non-military presence landed on the surface of the planet. Because, to be honest, it's all well and good having a ship in orbit, but you're not really in control of the planet and not being able to make use of its resources until you've got an expedition down on the surface.
Right, I'm guessing that's going to have to involve Kerbals.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
It would indeed. And then level 3.5, so the highest level of control, is having a landed military presence on the surface of the planet to be able to enforce your capture of the planet. And that could be quite interesting because nobody has done that yet.
Challenges.
Yeah. But to be honest, if you just quickly fly in a military presence, just land it on the surface, that's worth 3.5 points. But if you've flown it through a fleet, which would probably have, you probably have satellites in there, you'll have military vessels in there, and you'll have capital vessels, because of the way the points add up, I would be winning because I would have more points, which makes sense.
Yes.
I can bomb you from orbit.
Yeah.
So yeah, you basically want to either contest stuff and hope they don't wipe you out when you try and contest it, or you want to destroy enemy vehicles that outrank your stuff that you've got in orbit, and that's how you win. That's how you capture planets. Any planets considered as contesting as drawing, it doesn't count as scoring at all for anybody.
Okay.
But it's a good way. It's a last-ditch effort at the end of a series to quickly try and stop people from getting stuff. So yeah, that's the way it's going to work. That's the way how we capture stuff, and that's how we decide who the winners are. Unless it's a mutual thing, because last time, yes, I won, but me and Nightshade had a massive fleet fight, and I was literally just the last man standing with vessels. Nightshade had no combat vessels, and Tuxedo's Industries never sent any combat vessels up into space. They were literally explorers. So it was decided
this is Mod. He's a lover, not a fighter.
Yes. Well, he was actually intending on getting involved in a fight just as long as somebody attacked him first. Then he would take the other person's side. And as Nightshade was too busy with me, and I was too busy with Nightshade, nobody ever got round to attacking him.
Poor Mod, stuck in space, left all alone. That was terrible, really.
I think he was happy about the fact that he got left alone more than anything else. I mean, he's pretty much left alone to explore stuff, and I know I managed to contest Eve with the Leviathan launch, but he was the one person who managed to explore the most planets outside of Kerbin's influence. He got Duna and Eve.
Yes, he did, didn't he?
So, if we think of in terms of exploration, if you could consider exploration as perhaps being a secondary target, he won. He explored the most planets, visited the most places.
Yes, it's very true. Very true. And we're almost in orbit now, by the looks of it.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. It's slow working, but we've got plenty of fuel on the inner stages as well. Now this has got enough fuel to get to the Mun and circularize. It takes just a tad little bit more to get to Minmus, but it takes a lot less to circularize because Minmus has a lower gravity to fight against. So I should get there with if not a little bit of fuel, then I should only just run out and just use the engines on the back of the assault craft slightly. And as the assault craft has got a lot of fuel, I can't see this as being a problem.
Yep, looking good.
At the moment we're nosing up though. I think, have we passed our apoapsis or is he trying to pull it up? We have passed our apoapsis.
Yes.
That's interesting. Huh.
Well, I said nearly in orbit.
You did say nearly. We're at the correct altitude. I think he's just bringing it out now. Our orbital speed is actually close to actually being correct for an orbit.
Yeah, I think you'll do it.
I think we're there. Yeah, you can see it's just sneaking out there.
Yes.
It's just moving really slowly. Okay guys, well, we are going to bring you back in when we have reached orbit and we're going to plot our course for Minmus. So we'll see you in a second guys.